Harris announced that they would be closing. The LDC, with its chairman, Mark Berry, formed a committee. At that particular time, we were all offering suggestions as what we could do with the old Harris plant. One of my suggestions, having been in correction a few years, suggested that we seek a correctional facility in that particular building. As it turned out, the village fathers felt that it should be a building for industry, manufacturing, and also Mark contacted the Department of Correctional Services and they informed him that they would not put a facility inside of a community. So that ended that. Then I went to my own town board and I talked with them and asked them if they felt that we should strive to get a correctional facility in our area. What happened there, I was able to contact Gary Filio, Lefty Filio, many of you I'm sure know him, and he suggested that I contact Kevin Travis, and that's the individual that we have been doing business with. He told us that what we had to do, so Councilman Blaine and myself got together. We got 13 potential sites in the town of Champlain. Then we had a meeting with Kevin Travis. He came up, he reviewed all of the sites, and then perhaps 2 weeks later, we were informed that there was one potential site in the town of Champlain, namely the Boyer Farm. After that notice, we've had several other areas that have been offered for a site for a correctional facility. What happened then, I asked Kevin exactly where do we go from here? Well, he says to begin with, he says you have to have public support for an institution of this kind. Secondly, if you do get public support, then you come back to us and tell us that you feel you have public support, and we will try to get an appropriation of $60,000 to see what we can do about going over the sites, soil testing, etc. And also where the water supply would come from, where the sewage disposal would go. And that's where we are at this point. At no time have we kept you in the dark. Certainly, I feel that the media, both the newspapers and the television, have been very gracious in supplying everyone with information. And at this time, we do have all volunteers here tonight from the Department of Correction. They're here again merely to give us information. We will have Mr. Peter Lacey, who's the superintendent of the Franklin Correctional Facility, who will give a slide presentation and answer any questions that you might have. We have Carol Leary, who's the Deputy Superintendent of Administrative Services. She will touch on jobs, local participation, local labor, and salaries. We also have with us tonight John Karowski. He's a former supervisor of the town of Dannemora, who was instrumental in working with the Department of Corrections to have the facility put in Lion Mountain. From Malone, we have Tony Barber, who's the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and he's the vice president of the advisory board. And we have Mike Hicks. He's a local businessman, and he's also a member of the advisory board. From Altona, we have Ellen Montgomery, who's the chairman of the advisory board. Owen LaFountain, he's the postmaster and past chairman of the advisory board. And his wife, Priscilla LaFountain, is here also with him. And June Saya is the secretary of the advisory board. So at this time, I would ask your indulgence while Peter Lacey makes his slide presentation. And at that time, remember this is informal. If you have a question during this presentation, let out a yell, and I'm sure you'll attempt to answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. If you don't mind, I'm going to take this right down on the floor so I can do both the mic and the slide. What I'm about to show you is a slide slide presentation that was made several months ago for Commissioner Coughlin, the Department of Correctional Services, and for Commissioner John Egan of Office of General Services. In the past couple of weeks, my staff has updated this slide presentation a little bit. It's a little bit dark, but I'll try to explain it to you as I go along. It should give you a pretty good idea of what a 700-bed medium correctional facility looks like.
Can we have the lights down, please?
Franklin Correctional Facility, as you know, is situated on Bear Hill Road in the town of Malone. It is a 756-bed medium security correctional facility. It cost approximately $37 million to build. It was completed in August 1986. On August 22nd, 1986, our first inmates arrived, and it was fully staffed, and a full complement of inmates was accomplished in about 3 weeks. The Department of Correctional Services owns approximately 190 acres on this site. Inside the secure compound is 52 acres. There are 25 buildings. 21 of them are inside the compound. This is an aerial view of the facility. You can see the entire compound, which includes some of the buildings outside the perimeter and the water tower. This is a view of the administration building. It's the administration building is the only major building outside the secure compound. Inside this building is also the main pedestrian entrance to the secure compound. The compound is surrounded by 2 fences, a 16-foot fence and an 8-foot fence. Each of them are topped by razor ribbon wire. In between the fences, if you notice the little round terminals, it's a microwave sensor system. Between the 2 fences is a no man's land. This microwave sensor system detects any movement that occurs between these 2 fences. If such movement occurs and it's detected by these sensors, an alarm goes off in the facility arsenal, and at the same time the closed-circuit TV cameras, which you can see up on the top, will turn and zoom in on that spot. So the officer in the arsenal, if there's movement in that at a particular point, not only gets an alarm, but he can see that area. In addition to that, there's an armed patrol 24 hours a day outside the perimeter. This is a view of the administration building lobby. This picture is a little bit dark, but to give you an idea, this is where all the visitors to the facility are processed. There's the officer's desk behind the glass screen. The 2 wooden pedestals you see there is a walk-through metal detector, identical to what you would see at an airport. This is the captain's office and the watch commander's office. The gentleman you see in the office is the captain. The office to the left is the watch commander, who is a lieutenant on duty 24 hours a day. This is the conference room where meetings and other facility functions are held. This is the executive wing of the building, superintendent's office, deputy superintendent's office, and the support staff. This is the superintendent's office. This is the arsenal and the control center. The TV monitors that you see in the background are the ones that I spoke of just a few minutes ago that monitor the perimeter. In addition, there's a facility-wide fire alarm system in the arsenal itself, which consists of all the facility weapons and armament. This is a pedestrian entrance to the facility from the administration building. The gate to the right would take you only to the visiting room. The one to the left is for staff, and it goes into the compound itself. This is a view of the visiting room from the horticulture program. As I mentioned when I started, our staff updated this slide presentation about a week ago. The horticulture program is one of my pet projects, And I think you'll probably see 6 or 8 pictures of it, because he was aware of that. This is the interior of the visiting room. Family members who come to visit the inmates come in through the gates that you just saw, are processed by the officers, and come into the visiting room from the administrative building side. The inmates come to the visiting room and are also processed by the officers from the opposite side of the building. Package room in that same building. Any visitors who might bring a package for an inmate, the package is left here when they come in, it is processed while the visit is taking place, and at the end of the visit, the inmate can pick it up and take it back to his housing unit with him. This is a view of one of 7 housing buildings. The building that you see it, the low center in the middle is the recreation area. The 2 gabled structures on either end are 54-man dormitories. So a total of 108 inmates in each building. This is the interior of one of those dormitories. Each of the 54 inmates has his own little cubicle that is his property, that's his home. No one goes in there without his invitation. Nothing in the room is over 4 feet high, so the officer at his station, without moving, has clear visibility of the whole room. In the recreation area, along with the usual shower and toilet facilities, is the phone home program, which are the 2 doors you see directly in front of you. That's a free access phone program. The phones are capable of only collect calls. An inmate can call his family at any time, as long as they're willing to accept the charges. There's no cost whatsoever to the taxpayer. Each dormitory has a laundry where each inmate can do his own personal laundry. There's 3 washers and 3 dryers. This is a general view of the recreation area, which includes a TV room. This is the shower and toilet area. This is the activities building, which is at the far rear of the facility. The high portion is a gymnasium, and the lower portion of the building includes all the services such as music room, law library, regular library, chaplain's offices, and various other service groups. This is again a view of that building and a view of the outside recreation area. The recreation area is separated from the rest of the compound by just a simple 8-foot high traffic control fence. This is the entrance to the outside recreation area at the end of the building. It's another view of the outside recreation area with the water tower in the background. In the outside rec area are 2 softball fields, handball courts, outside basketball, soccer field, football field. I understand this year we're even going to have a hockey team. This is the interior of the gymnasium. It's a very popular spot, particularly in the winter months. There's a lot of activity in this room. The large door on the rear of the gym is a weight room. The room is equipped with universal gym, all kinds of weightlifting equipment. Weightlifting and bodybuilding is a very popular pastime in any prison. This is the interior of the music room. We have several bands. We have a Spanish band, we have a band that's made up of all kinds of ethnic groups. There are 3 or 4 groups who are very active in music. This is the interior of the law library. By law, every correctional facility has to provide for the inmates a complete law library. So if they wish to challenge their conviction or prepare appeals, they have the resources to do so. It is also a very popular spot. This is the interior of the Interfaith Chapel. This is the regular library. This library has several thousand volumes, but it's in its infancy. We're just starting to build it. Every month we add a few books to it. Eventually, the room will be filled with bookshelves. This is an arts and crafts room, also in that same building, where inmates can come in their leisure time and learn how to do pottery, sculpture, glass painting, and various other recreational activities, hobby-type activities. Just another view of that same hobby craft area. This is a view of the greenhouse, which is situated directly behind the visiting room. The greenhouse is part of the vocational program. It's a horticultural program, vocational program. We have a long waiting list for inmates to participate in this program. It's very popular. It's a certified program. Every inmate that completes the program gets a certificate that qualifies him to be groundskeeper, greenskeeper, gardener. Every aspect of the plant process, the growing of plants, is taught. This is the interior of the greenhouse. During the winter months, the horticulture instructor will be starting a lot of plants that will be available to other correctional facilities and to some of the local parks in the spring. One of the responsibilities of the horticultural program is the beautification of the ground. And starting with the area immediately around the horticultural program, and we gradually expand throughout the 52 acres of the interior of the facility. In a couple more years, I expect there will be flower beds all over the place. This is another view of the visiting room, and in the background, the administration building from the horticultural building. This is the facility health services building. We have a 10-bed infirmary. We have a full-time medical staff and nurses around the clock. We have full-time doctors, dentists. We pretty much care for all the medical needs of the population. We have 2 isolation rooms and a 10-bed, an 8-bed ward, 2 isolation rooms. Total capacity in the building is 10. This is the interior of the 8-bed ward, equipped with regular hospital beds and all the state-of-the-art medical equipment. This is the pharmacy also in that building. We have a complete stock of all the necessary drugs and pharmaceuticals necessary for the medical staff to perform their function. This is the dental wing. We have 4 chairs, which include an x-ray unit. We have 1 full-time dentist and dental hygienist. This is the food service building. The 2 high peak areas in the front are 2 mess halls. The low area between those 2 peaks is the facility kitchen. The higher area in the back is the facility storeroom. The storeroom stores all the supplies for all the facility, and also has all the coolers and storage areas for the kitchen. This is the interior of one of those mess halls. The kitchen in the background, and beyond that you can see the other mess hall. This is an area looking through one mess hall through the kitchen to the other. It is a completely electric kitchen. This is the cooler area between the mess hall and the storehouse. This is the storehouse. This building on the near end houses the laundry and state shop. The state shop being the kind of the clothing store for the facility. That shop has all the state issue clothing and provides replacements and clothing issue to the inmates as needed. On the left of that building, that wing is the commissary, which is kind of a mini grocery store. Inmates can go there and spend the money that they earn in the program. That money is spent in a voucher system. There's no cash transaction. We have everything in that commissary from canned goods to toothbrushes, practically anything you would find in a convenience store. This is the interior of the commissary. The area behind the screen is the storage area for that store. This is the state shop with issues of inmate clothing, and behind that is the facility laundry. This is the interior of the laundry. The facility laundry does all the flatware, sheets, bedding, state issued clothing. The inmates can do their personal laundry in the dormitory. This is the program building. The wing on this, as you're looking at right now, is the academic wing. We have 15 academic classrooms. We teach everything from basic reading all the way through to some college degree. We have both English and Spanish classes. This is the interior of a typical classroom. We run this program operates on a full day schedule. It closes down at approximately 3:30 and opens up again at 4:30 and runs again till 10 o'clock at night. It's another classroom from the corridor. We have 12 vocational shops, this being one of them. These are also all certified vocational programs. Every inmate that completes the program is certified in that particular trade. Along with the classroom learning, there's also a certain amount of hands-on work that the class will do as part of the teaching process. This is a small engine repair shop, another vocational program. This is a floor covering program which teaches inmates all the various techniques in carpeting, tile, all the various kinds of floor covering. This is the drafting shop. Teaches the basics of drafting. Many of the live work projects that we incorporate into the program involve several shops. If we present a project to the vocational school, it will very often start with the drafting class who will prepare the blueprints and then go from one shop to another, the carpentry shop, the electrical shop, and the plumbing shop, and each one does their phase of the project. This is a masonry shop, also a vocational program. This is building number 16 at Franklin Correctional Facility. It's a special housing unit. It is the only maximum security unit in the facility. It consists of 32 maximum security cells, and it is used for housing disruptive inmates, inmates who are in need of protection for a variety of reasons, and in some cases for inmates just prior to being transferred or just upon arrival to the facility. All the cells in this building are electronically controlled from this control room. You may have noticed in the previous picture that there are 4 wings to the building. This console is in the exact center. And the officer standing here through the glass windows can see every cell and every door in the building. And he controls every cell door and all the lights from this console. This is one of the wings of that building. Looking down through, there's a masonry partition which shields one side of the corridor from the other. Each of the cells is a solid steel door and has vision panels and access panels for feeding and communicating with the inmate. This is the interior of one of those cells. On the end of each of those wings are these small enclosed exercise yards. By law, we're required to provide for each inmate housed in special housing minimum of 1 hour exercise per day, outside weather permitting. This is where we do that. This is one of the buildings outside the perimeter, vehicle maintenance. All our vehicle repairs, maintenance work, storage is done here. This is the interior of that building. Again, the interior of the vehicle maintenance building. These are some of the facility vehicles. This building is inside the compound. This is work control center. This is where our maintenance staff operates from, and they keep their supplies and equipment. In addition to our maintenance staff, we also have a considerable number of inmates who work with that staff in maintaining the various functions of the facility. This is the interior of that building. There are tools and equipment in that building to maintain everything, whether it's carpentry, electrical, plumbing, whatever it is. They have the tools and the equipment to maintain it. This is one of the storage areas for that equipment. This building houses a diesel generator. This generator is tied into our electrical system so that in the event that there's a power failure for whatever reason, whether a tree comes down over a power line or just simply a breaker disconnect, within 3 seconds this generator will start and take over the load of the entire facility. It's hardly more than a flicker of the light when this changes over from regular power to the diesel generator. This is the interior of that building. The panels on the right are the control stations and the switching stations for the electrical system. The thing there on the left is the diesel generator. Incidentally, our electrical bill in Niagara Mohawk runs approximately $18,000 a month. This is the powerhouse. We do not generate electricity. We buy our electricity from the local utility company, which is Niagara Mohawk, but we do generate our own heat and hot water. Inside this powerhouse are 4 boilers. The 2 nearest you in this picture generate domestic hot water for the showers, the kitchen, any area that needs hot water. The blue boiler in the background is one of the boilers that generates heat for the entire facility. This boiler is identical to the one you just looked at, except that it's raised up off the floor about 5 feet, and underneath is a wood-burning firebox. This boiler will burn either wood, or when the wood fire dies down, the oil burner on the top will take over. We have purchased this year 500 4-foot cords of wood. If we operate this wood burner on a 12-hour day schedule, the 500 cords of wood will last about 5 weeks. This is the only gate in the perimeter fence. This is where all vehicles that enter or leave the compound are processed through here. This is also the only guard tower on the perimeter. That is an armed post, and the officer in that tower controls 2 gates. Only one of those gates is open at any given time. Any vehicle entering or leaving the compound enters first through one gate. That gate is closed, and the vehicle is completely checked out to ensure that he's leaving an authorized exit. Then the second gate is open, and he's allowed to leave. And that is Franklin Kirkland building.
Does anyone have any questions at this time regarding the facility that you just saw? If not, then we'll ask. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was wondering, it's a very impressive facility, has resources that probably aren't available in the community in the area. How much does it cost per inmate per year?
I don't have the exact figure for Franklin Correctional Facility. Departmental cost is roughly $20,000 per year per inmate.
Anyone else? Always then we'll ask Deputy Superintendent Leary to address this matter.
Can you hear me? Okay, I will just try to briefly address the civil service standard. Is that better? Can you hear better? Is that better? Is it on?
1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay, is that better? Hopefully. Okay, I have a list of questions that were presented. I guess probably I'll try to go along in some sort of order to give you an idea of when we open the facility, what happens with the staffing. It wasn't mentioned, but I think I can give you a little insight into our purchasing also, because we do some local purchasing. One of the first questions was, how are people hired? If the next new facility that goes up is done the way the others have been, a few months prior to the opening of the facility, our central office in Albany will begin accepting applications from people for the various jobs. And they will ask for transfer requests. In other words, anyone working in another correctional facility has the option of placing his name on a transfer list and being considered for transfer to the new place. At Franklin, we found that we had quite a number of people who were working away at other facilities and really wanted to return home to the community. And by being on the transfer list, some of them were able to return. Okay, the applications of the transfer list go into Albany. Before the executive team is chosen, now the executive team is the superintendent and the deputy superintendents. Before they're chosen, central office personnel department helps us out a little bit by hiring some of the key staff. So by the time we get to the facility, we will probably have a plant superintendent, someone to run the storehouse and begin accepting deliveries, and someone in the business office to start ordering supplies and materials. After and the central office does that through the interview process and civil service lists, and they make those appointments. Okay. Once the executive team arrives, then we begin canvassing our own lists, doing our own interviewing, and making our selections. Most of the positions in the facility are covered by civil service. So the very first thing we do is request the current civil service list. We canvass that list. We interview the people who indicate an interest in our facility or location. Now, someone from New York City may not be interested in coming up to Malone, so we just interview the ones who are interested. Of the ones we interview, we must choose one of the top 3 store lines to accept after interview. If they say after we've interviewed them, yes, I would like to have a job, then we must pick one of the top 3. Then there is a process where that gets approved in Albany by civil service, and they get put on the payroll. The lists themselves are ongoing. Some are what we call continuous recruitment. They are rather easy to get on because there is no definite examination date. The local job service offices usually, or they should have, a book with all of the civil service examinations and the qualifications for them in that book. You go in there and look and see what you're qualified for. If it's a continuous recruitment exam, it usually means that you pay, I think, a $5 fee, fill out the application form, and like if you're a nurse, send a copy of your license and a resume. It is scored in central office and by civil service, and then you're placed on the list. You don't have to wait only about maybe a couple of months for that have to be one of the top 3 acceptors. But it is quite easy to get on those lists. Teachers can get on those lists that way, vocational instructors, the dentist, that's a list, dental hygienist. Those are all examinations, they call them examinations, but they really are based on experience and your educational qualifications. The other exams are given periodically. Some are entry level, some are promotional. The promotional ones, when a freshman facility comes in, generally the promotional titles are not able to be given to the community keeper unless you've been in the system for a period of time. But we have found at Franklin, and I was involved at Oxford also, and we ended up there, that even when you have people coming from communities, they either like it really well and they settle in and buy a home, or they look to go back to their home area. When an opportunity arises, they move out, they go back to their home area, and then it often gives a chance for someone from our community who has gotten on the list by that time to be chosen. So if you don't get in like the very first time, sometimes within a year or so you can have an opportunity. But the list with the definite examination dates, you file, then you go to a central location, usually Potsdam, or Sarah Lake, and you take a written examination. It takes about 6 months, the scores come out. Then the lists are established in rank order. And when we have a title like that to fill, we call for that list, we canvass the people, of the interested people we interview, and select one of the top 3 for each position. Now, that sounds pretty complicated. I may have confused you. Does anybody have any questions so far before I go on? Let's see. We have what are called non-competitive, refuse to. Now, there aren't very many of those. Those don't really require a written examination, but they do require that you meet certain qualifications. And what happens there is that when you have a non-competitive position, we advertise in the newspaper. That's a requirement. It's in we probably look for Franklin. We advertise in the classical paper, the Roll paper, Watertown, and Saranac Lake sometimes. We advertise in the paper. Okay, we have a cutoff date for filing applications. After the applications are in, the department head, wherever vacancy exists, will do the interviews. After the interviews are over, the department head makes notes on each candidate that they interviewed. And the applications are gathered together and they are sent to our all-new central office for review, and that is where the final selection is made for the position. Those decisions are not made at the facility. Now, persons who are permanent in these non-competitive positions have the right to transfer to other facilities. For example, when we opened up, we had some people in some non-competitive positions in Altoona, in Clinton, or wherever. And they are allowed to just transfer over to Franklin if they want. They have transfer rights. So in that instance, that position would not be advertised in the newspaper. They would come over as a transfer, and wherever they left would have a vacancy, and that would be advertised. One of the other questions are, what are the salary ranges for anticipated positions? Well, Franklin started out as a 700-bed facility. We now have 756, but the staffing has remained the same. We have 389 full-time positions and 10 part-time positions. All of those except the rabbi being 50%. We have 243 security positions. That's correction officers, sergeants, lieutenants, captain, and a secretary. We have 79 support positions, which is the administration, the food service, legal, medical, business office, personnel, dental, pharmacy, those types of people. And we have 67 program staff. Now, the biggest part of program services is education. I believe under the education director comes like 42 employees off the 67. We have a grievance program which has a supervisor and chaplains, and all those different program services. I tried to lump the salary range, rather than give every title on the salary range, I tried to lump them sort of together. The clerical staff, which includes what are called keyboard specialists. They're stylist typists, clerks, stores clerks, and what we call calculations clerks and mail clerks. Their salaries range at present from $13,200 to $17,400. Now they come in at the entry level, and there's a progressive system where they get raises every year, a portion of it, until they get to the maximum. The clerical supervisors range, there's two ranges for them. The first level of supervisors is $16,600 to $20,500. The next level up is $22,168 to $27,000. The professional staff, teachers and golf instructors and those people, their salaries range at present from around $25,000 to about $35,000. The professional supervisors range from $27,800 to $42,000. The maintenance department, the tradesmen, average $19,700 to $24,000. The supervisory staff in the maintenance department average $29,000 to $35,000. Medical nurses, the salary range there goes from $23,500 to $29,800. The dentist averages from $49,000 to $60,000. The physician averages, the salary range is $67,400 to $80,350. Security staff, the supervisors, well, there are three levels of supervisors. They start at $26,000 and they go up to a high of $46,900. The correction officers themselves, after they serve a training period of 1 year, go from $22,000 to $27,700. Overall, the average salary of the Franklin Correctional employees is $26,000 at present. Now, that varies from year to year because everybody gets raises and move up. We have at the facility a budget of around a little over $13 million. Almost, well, $10,500,000. $10.5 million is salaries. We average around $408,000 every 2 weeks in payroll. And most of that will go into the community in one way or another. When we first opened up, I did a little tally back from our original staff. We had civilian staff totaling 162, and that includes like a parole office, which has offices in our building, but they are not corrections employees, but they're in business, and our part-time people. But of the 162, we took 74 from the community. That's 46%. Now, the manager of the job service office called me today, and he said that little tally. He said that in our first year, we have hired 23 typists and stenographers right through the job service office in Malone. I haven't kept track of that particular figure that they do. So I think that's pretty good. We try to hire all the local people that we can. There are certain rules first opened up, I told you 46% of our civilian staff came right from the local community. 21% of the staff for security services was from the local community. And that is because of the transfer system. Security people can only move when their turn comes. They go in order of seniority. But since we've hopefully done quite a bit of movement, where several other local people have been able to return home, it will continue. We had, I think, the second day we were open, second day that we were there, one of our correction officers was promoted to sergeant, which was great. But he went off to another facility, so that allowed one more to come in than what we had anticipated in the beginning. I believe the first 3 months we had 12 promotions to a different facility. We kept track of that for a while, but after a while we were so busy we just couldn't keep track of it. It's a big job, I'll tell you, when you start out, because you start from nothing, and you have to, like you said, in 3 weeks we had to have everything up and going. And then we entertained the governor how much later? Well, third week, yes, we entertained Governor Coleman, so our staff deserves a lot of credit too. We've had a lot of promotions within, because our people who came in at the entry level, then they took examinations as they came up, and then as other people moved out or got promoted further, then we've given them the opportunity of being promoted with us. We have great staff, they do a great job for us, and I'm very proud of them. What haven't I covered? Anyone have any questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Certainly, this is informative. I would assume that the same percentage of local help would be brought into the facility if and when we ever have one in the town of Champlain. Councilman Moore's been quite active in this particular program. He's helped us quite a bit. He's brought us a tremendous amount of information for the board to know which direction we felt that we wanted to go in. So at this time, I would like to have Brian introduce the people from Altona and Malone, if you would, Brian.
As I introduce you, if you'd like to make a remark, please feel free to, especially the people from Malone and the Chamber of Commerce who dealt directly with the impact on the community and business from what the facility has spent in the area. From Malone, Mr. Tony Barber.
Thank you for inviting Malone here. It seems just like a few months ago we were sitting where you are. I've been involved with the proposal of trying to get a prison to the community of Malone since the very first day. Dick Levine, Molly McKee, and myself were the people who first set out to convince the community to look at the correctional facility as an industry. And I'm sure all you gentlemen up here on stage have been involved in searching for industry for your community. Today, a market for industry is a competitive one. Our first mission when we started our plan was to convince the Malone Chamber of Commerce to commit themselves completely to be a vehicle through which we could focus all our work. We had meetings with small groups of individuals from all walks of life to find out the general feeling of the community. We went into a large forum, such as you have here tonight, to find out what the entire community felt. We had approximately 600 people, and over 99.7% were in favor of going after an institution for Malone. During all this time, we were involved in a search for suitable property, and we were doing some lobbying in Albany, as we had yet to be seriously considered. We had a strong ties in Albany through Senator Stafford and Assemblyman Ryan, and now Mr. Ortwell. We were continuously in contact with Mr. Kevin Travis, the Department of Correctional Services, and members of the staff, and Mr. Egan of the Office of OGS. Our main problem was not of anyone opposing our facility, but
one of too many communities in our county wanting the facility. Upon receipt of notification that Albany would look at the property in Franklin County and the Malone area, we had a committee select 5 pieces of property of approximately 100 acres each. One of the community's requests was out of sight, out of mind. I'm sure that you people have second thoughts. Do we want an institution where everybody drives by and see it? I don't mind. I was brought up in Dannemora, and everybody who came to Dannemora saw our institution. And believe me, there wasn't much juvenile delinquency. People wanting jobs are things, as things develop and site selection, bids approval, releases, awards, and you think your work's done. It just starts. People start wanting jobs. Our advice is get involved with the correctional facility, the New York State people who are involved with directing civil service exams. Through North Country Community College, we set up several seminars in which people found out exactly how to apply for a job, what exams were needed, and when the exams were offered. If the exams were ongoing, we set up a weekly testing period where we got as many people as we could qualified and on the register. Is it all worth it? Our community has realized, as of now, a steady, slow growth in all kinds of services. The coming in of new families to work not only in the institution, but the spin-off that was guaranteed for any kind of an industry. We're in the process now of getting our second institution, and already we see more benefits coming to us. The village itself has sold a service to the institution. They are selling at a good sizable rent, water and sewer. Our school, which was enrollment was going down, we had closed one of the elementary schools, is now reopened. Our enrollment is up. The general small stores in the area who were thinking of closing are now prospering. Our hospital enlargement program, which was just about dead, is now about to be realized. Our fund drive is completed and construction is started. We have all types of new industries coming along, from a new dress shop that's opening next week to a new insurance company, bank, annexes, restaurants, motels, real estate, churches. There really is not a negative side to this issue. Oh yes, we have more traffic, but that has a good sound. We needed a solid base for our community, and I feel that it's been achieved. The citizens who are joining our community are buying homes, maybe buying a new car. They're joining the service clubs, start savings accounts, become active in our churches. They even take a course or two at the community college, take part in all the community efforts of our community, such as the hospital drive, United Fountain drive, and just recent, a booster sports club drive. We're not on top of the ladder, but we're surely not on the bottom of the ladder. We hope that you join us and welcome New York State Correctional to your community, because as far as we're concerned, they've been nothing but a great asset. Thank you.
Sir, I got a question for you. You're saying that the prison industry is an industry right now. You said that Malone is competing with other villages or areas competing for that industry. How did you outperform the other villages or communities so that you got it now?
As president of the chamber, I initiated Telegram. We bombarded Albany with telegrams. We went to every business, and every Monday morning we asked every agency, insurance agency, businesses, every kind of retail agency, to send a telegram to Kevin Travis, to the Commissioner of Correction, to Governor Cuomo. We did 2 mailing of approximately 12,000 letters per mailing. They were done in bulk mailing, so they all arrived in Albany on one day. We had several people in Albany to be there to witness the arrival. We made Albany aware that we genuinely were interested in getting an institution. We did not, anything that was an unfavorable comment that came to us pertaining from the community, we exposed it. we brought it right out in the open and we said, okay, you don't want an institution, why? You tell me. Just don't say, I don't want one. Give me a reason. And we sent everything to Albany. We're up front from the very first day up till now. Any other questions?
I have a question for Mr. Latorno. Mr. Latorno, are we competing with other villages or communities for this prison in Champlain?
Well, right now, my understanding is that there are 12 to 14 other communities in the state that are looking for a facility. Offhand, I believe that there's a projection of 5 or 6 facilities, I guess, to be built in the future in the state of New York. And what this town board is trying to do is find out whether the community wants one here.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to introduce Mike Hicks, Malone Community Advisory Board, and also local businessman.
Good evening. As an advisory board member, I was at a meeting last night and I heard about your forum, and I wanted to invite myself to speak to you as a resident, not only an advisory board member. I happen to live approximately half a mile from this facility, and I have experienced no effect as far as detriment. You drive by this facility, and all you see is a sign that says Franklin Correctional Facility. And you arrive, you have to turn off the main road to get up to see the facility. We have a business, and we have noticed a dramatic increase in professional people. As far as your community, I see that we employ approximately 500 people from her figures, and that's a massive payroll. And it's got to go into your stores, your restaurants, all your industry. It's got to only help your community as a whole. I think as a community should push for this project. I think you'll see a great long-term effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Ellen, do you have anything to say? Ellen Montgomery from the Altoona Community Advisory Board.
Altoona was in a different situation than Champlain is. We're a very small community, and we were one of the first communities where the prison approached us, and we used our old school building as a basis to begin their facility. There was much opposition to this. There were many people pro, many people for and against. But the people generally supported the prison as a whole. We haven't seen the spin-off that Malone has seen because we don't have the businesses in our community. We have one small store right in the village itself. We have prison correction officers who worked in other facilities who are transferred back. We have some people from the community who were hired. We have also the work service crews. I know many of you people have seen the service crews around the Champlain area, and I don't know if you're aware of the amount of work that these crews do for the public, for the towns, for the nonprofit agencies. They've done a tremendous amount of work in our town, and I know they have in Champlain. There was quite a bit of controversy when the first community crews were going out. Everyone was anxious as to how these people were going to be screened. Were they going to be allowed out? There hasn't been any problem at all. And the service to the communities is just overwhelming. All the fire departments in the area have been painted. They refurbished rescue truck for our area, the rescue squad. And generally, the impact of the prison in our area has been good, even though there was much opposition to it. They have used the original school building. They've maintained the facility, which the state promised to do. They have maintained the access to the school pond, which was one of the main concerns of the community. They didn't want their school building to be changed, and they have pretty much done this. Everything is behind the building, and it's aesthetically, it still looks like a school, even though you do see the fence. And I think most people in our town are happy with the prison there. Any questions?
You were saying that you were approached by the prison system to build a prison in your community. So you did not, as a community, actively pursue the prison to be in your place there.
The town board, some of the townspeople did approach the prison system, but the prison system also came to us. They were looking for a building, and we had a building available.
Jean Sayer is the Secretary of the Community Advisory Board in Altona.
I don't really have anything to add other than what Ellen has said, except I was one of the ones who started out opposing the prison and now have no qualms about it whatsoever. I have been involved with it from day one as part of the advisory board in the original community task force, and I have seen it as a benefit to the community.
You said that you had oppositions at first, personally opposed to prison. What were your objections at first, and what led you to change your mind?
I think my objection mainly was because I wanted to see something in my school other than prison. Mine was mostly from an emotional outlook, but the state has been very accommodating to us, with our demands about keeping the school looking the way it does. They recently, I guess the officers wanted to put a quality of life building right on the front lawn, and we said no, and they're still looking for a place, I guess, for it, but they are not putting it so that it will spoil the looks of the school. They are being very accommodating, and they have been true to all the promises that they have made to us, even though we've had to pursue them at some, at length for some of them, but most of the time they come across.
Mr. Owen LaFountain and his wife Lucille.
When this presentation was made in Altona, we had the picture shown, and there was the double fence, and one of the questions was asked, would a bird flying between the fences cause the alarm to go off? And they said it probably would, and they said, well, any bird between the fences would probably be a jailbird anyway. I've been in since the start of prison locating in Altona. Town board originally appoints a task force. Task force works with the Department of Corrections. After they get all the plans laid out for whatever building they're going to do, remodeling or whatever, and they move in, then the task force is disseminated, and we have an advisory board. The advisory board is the go-between between the prison and the townspeople. If there's something that the prison wished that be brought to the attention of the townspeople, we are the gophers, and if it's vice versa, we're still the gophers. I was elected chairman of the first advisory board, and after 3 years stepped down, and any people here who might be asked to serve either on the task force or on the advisory board, I would urge you to volunteer, and if it runs like our advisory board does, don't miss a meeting, because if you do, they'll elect you to an office. not the prison as such. We have received complaints from individuals of probably cars they thought were traveling too fast on the roads and so on. But we brought it to the attention of Mr. Donahue, and anybody that knows Mr. Donahue knows that he has his ways. And this is when it first opened, and we haven't received any of those complaints lately. As postmaster, I might say that the prison itself has a meter. They purchase approximately $30,000 worth of postage a year. This does not include the postage that the individual worker there might buy. I am a member of the volunteer fire department in Altona also, and we have a very good working relationship with the prison and with Mr. Donahue, and we have nothing but praise for he and his staff. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. For those of you who weren't aware what Community Advisory Board is, when the Department of Corrections decides on a specific site to build in a community, they ask for members of that community to participate in the Community Advisory Board. And the board mainly acts as a liaison between the community and the facility. These people from Malone and Altona are volunteers. They don't work for the correctional facility. They don't have any stake in this whatsoever down here in Champlain. But they have seen how the Department of Corrections operates, and cases in point like Altona, I know they had their class reunion or something of that nature where the community would like to be within the department. So in Altona, the Department of Corrections opened a school up for the class reunion. It might be somebody in the community says, that spot looks like hell without trees. There used to be trees there. Is it possible to replant it? The Community Advisory Board would bring this up in meetings with the superintendent, and the superintendent would decide, yeah, you've got a good point. The community would look better with the trees. Or it might be something where the facility plans on putting a building that would look out of place in the community. The Community Advisory Board would say, it wouldn't look good for the community to have this building in such a place. Is it possible for an alternative? And although the facility is not bound to honor the request, in most cases, I think these people could tell you that the facility goes over backwards to try and honor community requests. So it's not as if the facility would come in and do as it wishes. They do try and honor the community's requests. And I think any of these people will be more than happy to talk to you afterwards about any questions you may have. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our esteemed supervisor, Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Brian. At this time, I would like to ask Mr. John Karowski, the former supervisor for the town of Dannemora. He was instrumental in working with their people up there to put a facility in the Lion Mountain School. John?
The situation in Lion Mountain is practically the same as it is in Altona. I was with the whole system right from the beginning. And right now I'm on the Community Advisory Board. Our institution there in Lion Mountain only has, well, last week the report that I had was 151 inmates. Very small, but it's a unique prison, if you want to call it prison, whatever. But every one of those inmates that are in there are formed into groups that go out, and as you've just heard this recently, they go out and work for all non-profit organizations. They do an awful lot of work, and they have saved these non-profit organizations many, many dollars. This is quite a thing, and doing so, there never has been, at this time, no trouble whatsoever with the inmates. Now, we talked about fences. Well, I'm going to give you a good one. And I'll say Pete, because if I say Mr. Lacey, look at me. I used to work for him. Well, anyway, in my mountain, they have a fence. Yes, why? To keep the people and the kids out, not to keep the inmates in. Believe it or not. They have a recreation area they had just built, fenced in, for the same reason. But everything that goes along, as you had just said, anything else that they want to take to beautify or anything at all around the institution, good. Now, how this come about up there at Lime Mountain, it was more or less, I would have to say, through our representatives in Albany. They're the ones that said, here, we got a building available in Lime Mountain, let's use it. Well, I myself was formerly from Lime Mountain, and I hated electric tickets to see that going to prison, as the lady said. I had emotional feelings also. But at the present time, I think it was a good thing, because otherwise we would have a building in Lime Mountain that would be deteriorating, and to what it would ever become, I don't know. So anyway, this is what's happened up there, and everything's working out well. Many, as you heard, many of the correction officers and 2 other of the civilian employees transferred back into Lime Mountain from other institutions. This is one of the things that is a beneficiary to all people that are living in such a community. Some of these positions, as you were told, they pay well and everything else. Money stays in, some of the money stays in the community. Now, Lime Mountain's a very small community. They don't have anything there for people to spend money in. But people are moving in. Houses that were vacant are now filled, and it's a benefit for the area, the surrounding area itself. So, all I can say is, if you have any feelings whatsoever to have a prison in this area here, I think it'd be up to you people to go all out for it, because you've lost one industry. Now if you can get something back here to take its place, well, it'd be a wonderful thing. Now, is there any questions before I sit down? Thank you.
Thank you, John. I received a copy of a letter from Mr. Parsons. I don't know whether Brian picked it up or not. Did you pick up my letter, Brian? When we approached the village of Champlain, I spoke with the deputy superintendent. I approached the mayor and told him one of the things that the Department of Correction was interested in, of course, is the availability of sewer and water facilities. So Orr received a letter from Morel Broman Engineers, and it's addressed to him regarding wastewater treatment facilities, village of Champlain. Dear Orl, we understand from your telephone call of Wednesday, September 16, 1978, that there is consideration of constructing a 750-bed prison south of Champlain along Route 9, and that one option is providing water and sewer service for the village, from the village to provide to the proposed institution. You have asked us to comment on the possibility of village sewer service for the facility. We expect the proposed institution would generate 100,000 to 150,000 gallons per day of sewerage. In our 1984 report to the village entitled Secondary Water Treatment Facilities, the secondary plant proposed was to be designed for 400,000 gallons per day, which included 50,000 gallons from Harris and 50,000 gallons per day for a future industry. Your existing primary plant could not handle the additional flow, and New York State Department of Environmental Conservation would not allow the additional flow to be discharged into that plant. Any consideration of serving the institution would require commitment to building a secondary treatment facility. The first option that should be considered would include 1. Village construction of secondary treatment plant at present site with major capital contributions from the Correction Department. 2nd, Corrections Department to build holding tank, pump station, and force main for pumping into village sewers. 3rd, village to own and operate the plant and the institution to pay a share of the annual cost for operation and maintenance cost. A second possible option would include construction of an aerated lagoon type plant on lands outside the village adjacent to the proposed institution. Under this option, the village would pump sewerage out of the village to the plant, which would be owned and operated by the village, but serving both the village and institutions. The institution would pay a significant portion of capital and operation and maintenance costs. Since the village at some time will have to build a secondary sewage treatment plant, this could be the time to make that commitment with a major partner, the Corrections Department. This participation would reduce both capital and operational and maintenance costs to village residents. The Correction Department usually is very willing to make major contributions to assist the community in enlarging municipal water or sewer service to serve their institution. This represents a major undertaking and will need detailed study of alternate cost and timing. Please advise what we can do to assist you in your planning and discussion with the Correction Department. Very truly yours, Morel Bowman Engineers. Earl, you want to add anything to that?
We're going to be forced to build a secondary sewer system. DEC has been after us for the last 6 or 7 years. We finally sent in a statement to them that we would think about it in 1995, after our present sewer system has been paid for. If they hear that we are asking to have a prison brought into the town of Champlain, DEC, you can bet your life is going to be after us again. If we're going to get a secondary sewer plant, which we're going to have, this is a good time to get it. Because I'm sure the state of New York would help us out. The DEC told us that we were going to have to build a secondary sewer plant without any financial help from the federal government or from the state. And that was in the vicinity of $4 million, which we couldn't afford. And that's why we signed the paper in 1995. I have Mr. Glenn with us. He is our engineer for La Verge, and I asked him to come up this evening to talk about the water system as far as the prison is concerned. So if there's any questions on the water.
Dave, you want to come up here? Make any remarks?
I'm with the LaBerge firm out of Albany. We've worked with the Department of Corrections on several prison systems and worked for communities in the negotiations for facilities, water and sewer in communities such as Marcy, Otisville, so on. What we found is the Department of Corrections has been tremendously helpful and cooperative. Vrooman's letter on the sewer system is highly accurate. The mayor's comments are accurate also, to the extent that there is a willingness in the Department of Corrections to assist in any capital improvements necessary to facilitate their coming into a community to get the water and the sewer in a manner which they can tie in. In terms of those two utilities, the sewer system, we find that the Farmers Home Administration is now entering that field with federal aid to the tune of 55% of the cost. So there is a chance of getting some grant money from the Farmers Home Administration for the sewer treatment plant. That, with the efforts of the Department of Corrections, would tend to decrease the local share. The effort would be to make it certainly no more than if you had to go it alone, and the general effect is that it decreases it. It's lower, it's less expensive to the property owner in the village of Champlain to have both the Corrections Department and Farmers Home on board in that effort. In terms of the water system, the Farmers Home Administration has given a grant to the community, and they are in the process of doing the planning and so on. It's underway with our firm now. It's a $1,900,000 project, and that is funded to the tune of 75% grant from the federal government. The effect of the prison coming in, number one, it's going to increase the demand, the system now uses about 85, in that neighborhood, million gallons of water a year. The prison in Malone generates or uses about 45 million gallons a year, so you can see what kind of increase it would have. We believe the water supply is there for the community and could be made part of the Farmers Home project. The prison would pay for its tying into that system and any additional costs usually that are necessary to increase a line size, for instance, to get the water out to the area of the prison or out to the village line, and then they would take it from there. So the utility costs also, as people came in, as business increased, as the tax base increased in the community, the general effect we found is a stabilization or decrease in water and sewer rates over a period of time because of the increased tax base. So the effect overall is beneficial to the community in its efforts, both mandated and for the sewer system and the ongoing effort to redo the water system. The Department of Corrections coming into the community has a very positive effect. Anybody have any questions?
Champlain is pretty well known for its yellow and lumpy water. Would this be good enough for the inmates? Would we have to have better quality water?
The new water project is going to have a new source of water, and we're projecting that it will be a well farm. The quality of that water is far superior to the quality of water you're drinking now, and meets all the Section 5 requirements for safe drinking water in the state of New York. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Does any one of our board members want to make any comments at this time? Well, ladies and gentlemen, certainly I want to thank the people who volunteered to come down here this evening. I think you have a pretty good picture of what's happened in Malone and Altona and what could possibly happen in our immediate area. Is there anyone who would like to address the board at this particular time? We'd certainly like to hear your comments, pro or con, and we'd go from there. Anyone wish to address us at this time? Yes.
This is an informational meeting. Everything we've heard up there so far is positive. Really, there are no negative aspects to this?
I don't know if we can answer that. Somebody from Altona or Malone?
Would you tell me what you feel would be a negative?
No, I'm asking, this is informational, but all we've heard is positive, no negative. There are no negatives?
We had, when the contract was awarded, the construction people moved in. Our site is slightly out of town. What would you say, Pete, 2 miles? Mile and a half. We noticed a little bit of additional traffic, but as I said, when you're having expansion and you're getting something you've already wanted, the traffic was not a detriment to us. The construction people were there throughout the winter. They employed masons, electricians, plumbers. Bear Hill, which is a sandy knoll, is a perfect type of soil for winter construction. So that immediately took up a lot of people. As a matter of fact, we were in Ross's Point, Champlain, Plattsburgh, as far as Ticonderoga, Union Halls, trying to find plumbers, electricians, and masons. So the winter was a very profitable thing. All the intermediate apartments were immediately rented by the construction workers from out of town. The restaurants benefited from it. As far as one of the questions I was asked in another community was, having all those construction people there, weren't they rowdy? Construction people are people. They're no more rowdy than teachers or physicians or nurses or correction officers. You have some rowdy, you have some quiet. We found very little difference. I think the only comment that was strongly made during the wintertime is that they wanted more lanes in the bowling alley because there wasn't enough space for them. Then spring came and it was time for the first phase of the institutional people to come, and their entrance into the community until, and I hate to ask Pete this again, but when did you have your open house? September? Till that point of time, I don't know how many people came in that day, and I was standing next to Mr. Lacey with several other people from the community, and most people said, I didn't know you were here yet. This is the run-of-the-mill people who really are not downtown people, community people. After that phase, and everybody, the institutional people were already there, the thing was running, it was a surprise that they didn't have anything detriment to say about it, because all of a sudden they realized they were there, they were working, and I didn't have a time to gripe. So why gripe? It's already there, it's happening, and it's successful. I think we had two groups of people who formed who did not want the institution at the site that was originally the first site that was tentatively located by the committee, not by the state, but by the local community committee. One of them was a beautiful farm that the farmer wanted to sell it, but the community didn't want the farmer to sell it because it was too beautiful of a farm, even though the farm was past its productive time. It was too large for the current people to run. The second site was, because of the name of the site, it was on Crooks Road and nobody wanted it there. So I've been on every committee, and I have had very little feedback as to a detriment. Mr. Lacey made one comment, or Carol did, that there were already 50 families in Malone waiting to come back by the time the institution opened. These were the young people in the community who had taken civil service exams, gone out to work in other institutions, and were waiting to come back home. I interviewed over 70 families who came, who had ties in Malone. One of the things I'm very much in favor of is homesteads being maintained. A lot of the young COs, correction officers who came back, bought their grandparents' home because it's a good salary. So consequently, there were a lot of homes that were saved. As far as being bad, I see my school being better. I see the churches more full. I see a lot of traffic downtown. The grocery stores will all admit, and when a grocery store admits they're doing 10% business, you know they're doing 10% business. Increases have been good. The institution has been very, very much in favor of assisting the community. Mr. Lacey is in favor of his hothouse. We're all waiting for it to fill up because next spring we're hitting them up for flowers. He has built picnic tables. I don't know the number of things that they haven't contributed to the community. You have to pay for the lumber, but the labor is free. So we haven't found anything wrong. We have found absolutely nothing wrong. We like the people who have moved back. We're happy with the new people who have come into the community, and they fit in well because they themselves are from all walks of life, and that makes a community. So I truly have worked on every committee from the very beginning of this. I have no feedback that's bad.
Question for Mr. Lacey. It's, I don't think you can dispute the advantages in terms of stimulus to the local community in terms of both housing and service industries. But there's always a recurring thing in the news you see once in a while, maybe not in New
lot of local people. Consequently, the visitors are not local. They come in on Saturday morning on a bus. They go back out on Saturday afternoon on a bus. They don't stay in the community. The community doesn't get a lot of business out of it. They don't use the reference of the motels. They leave the city at night, on a Friday night on a bus, and it's a round trip. They arrive in Malone at 8:30 in the morning, and they leave at 3:30 in the afternoon, and they get back to New York City at 2 or 3 o'clock on Sunday. So the opportunities for them to produce drugs or introduce drugs into the community is just not there.
Mr. Lacy? Is there any studies as far as crime rate in the community? Is there any increase in crime rate with prisoners relocating or some of the family moving up in the area or drugs or anything like that?
Well, I would think that the presence of a correctional facility would have a deterrent on crime.
Yeah, but is there any studies, I'm asking? Is there anything that has ever been studied?
You don't see a lot of inmate families moving into the community. We have had in the year that we've been operating a couple of people from Franklin County as inmates. Naturally, their families lived in Franklin County. I don't know of a single family of an inmate who came from out of Franklin County who has relocated into Franklin County. There may be one, but I'm not aware of.
Okay, how about when prisoners are released? Do they tend to go back to where they were from, or is it?
Conditions of an inmate going out on parole is that you go back to the county you came from. Our staff, when we release an inmate, even if he is maximum termination of his sentence, which means that he could walk out the front door and go any place he please, we still escort that inmate, transport him to the bus station, and my staff stays there until that bus leaves town, just for my own satisfaction that he has left town. They don't stay around long. Anymore, I doubt very much that they stay around Altona. I know they don't stay around Dannemora. They just don't stay. They go home.
Well, there was, I know there's no rapist in a minimum security prison, but there was a guy in the news a couple of months ago who had been in Dannemora, was from New York City, and 10 years ago he'd gotten out and raped a girl from Peru area, and then he's back in New York City again. But that is rare, is what you're saying?
I would say it's extremely.
Mr. Lacy. One comment Mr. Lacy made to us last night that was really very evident in what the question you're asking is, last night you told us at the advisory meeting that your turnover in the institution is approximately how many inmates per
75 inmates.
Per month?
We release in one way or another, release or transfer, 75 per month.
And
our population turns over in 10 months.
That's right. The entire population turns over in 10 months. So consequently, who would move up to live here for a couple months because the turnover is so fast? That was one of the questions that was brought up in our community.
So these types of facilities are different than Clinton. And I worked a lot of years in Clinton. And I don't see, and I never did see, a lot of inmate families moving into Dannemora or even the Plattsburgh area. Certainly there's probably been a few, but it hasn't been a large group. Now, inmates stay in Dannemora for a long time. In Malone, they have to have no more than 4 years for the earliest possible release. If they have over 4 years, they can't be there. The type of facility that Leo and the community here has been talking about for Champlain is identical to Franklin. Maximum time to release 4 years. So you don't have the long-term inmates. And the turnover would probably be about the same as it is in Franklin. All kinds of discharges, whether transfer, parole, or maximum expiration, about a tenth of the population of the month. Naturally, we get another number back in, but it's a good turnover.
Is there a certain type of crimes that these people are, generally speaking, can you categorize what they're in there for?
Well, it's a great variety of crimes, just simply by the fact that there is a limitation on the time that they have to serve. And we would tend to we do not have any heinous or notorious crimes, or the serial killers and that kind of thing just aren't there. Those kind of inmates just never become medium security. They're maximum security as long as they're in the system. A serious threat to the community, even though this perimeter system that we use, and have used it for about the last 10 years, and has never been breached, it still is a medium security perimeter system, and the heavy risk inmates we just don't put in the security.
what effect would a 750 man or woman population, which is about half the size of our community, would make Champlain known as a prison village? What effect would that have on a big company wanting to settle in Champlain for the first time? We may be willing to have the prison here, but what about people who aren't here now? The people who are going to fund the company. Do they want to come to a village that has a prison as its main industry?
Well, it would be very difficult for me to answer that question.
I really don't know that, but that's what reservation I
Maybe
have.
Tony could address that a little better, but I don't really see where it has any negative impact. We don't build prisons on the main street anymore.
I was gonna say, that one wouldn't be on Main Street.
I am not aware of any sites.
They're talking on our main entrance into the south.
But yeah.
It would be in full view and it would just be absolutely, would be the landscape of the community.
I reference downtown.
Okay. But that's my one reservation I have, is that what effect would it have on our getting the industry that would hire more local people? Would it have on our community because of the prison being here, if any?
From my point of view, I don't see that it would have a negative impact. But someone from the community, the Chamber of Commerce, or one of those could probably address that.
I wonder if the Malone people have had any inquiries from any industry or had any effect on something like this.
There's 52 prisons in New York State, and I haven't heard of any business leaving anywhere yet or stopping from coming in.
How would you know in the first place that somebody didn't let them anywhere? How would you know that?
Have you ever heard it? What is your complaint?
No, I have a reservation in mind.
We're just speaking of a lot of jobs for people around here that need them. You probably don't need it, but there's a lot of people do here, and that's going to be the best thing that ever happened to them. I don't need it either because I'm retired, but I'd sure like to see it here. And I retired from Altona. It was the best 26 years I ever had.
I don't remember standing up and saying I'm not in favor. I said I have reservations to the effect.
Well, I don't have any, so
Who
I'm
won't
saying
be
my
working
part.
there will do a lot of jobs too.
But there's a lot of people here since there's disposal is going to need jobs, and it'll be the nicest thing that ever happened to this community because it's sure going to hell the way it is.
I'm not saying I'm completely against it either, but what the gentleman is saying, that doesn't necessarily mean that any of these Harris workers are going to get these jobs. They're going to be leaving before this prison is even built. So that doesn't guarantee them any jobs.
There's a lot of Harris people that's already left into the prison system already.
That's right.
Already hired. They're just waiting to move right up the shit out of the prison.
So, and that means that they've already got a job. So if they come back up here, that doesn't mean there's somebody
They
that
got
doesn't
prison
have a
jobs.
job that's going to get a job.
They got prison jobs.
Yeah,
Their
that's what I
name was
said.
on the list. That means they'll come back up here.
Okay, that's what I
Chance
said.
that they don't have right now.
We have someone in the back.
Way in the back. Thank you, Mr. Lacerno. You put on a good show tonight. I want to ask a question first and then maybe make a comment or two. Question is, you said in your opening statement that a survey would be done of the surrounding area and the community before a site was selected or acted upon. And it's my understanding from what I've read in the paper that site has already been chosen. My question is, what kind of a survey was done of the community to find support for this?
Well, basically what we did originally, when the village of Champlain indicated that they did not want to use the Harris facility for a medium security institution, I sat down with my board and we discussed the possibility of seeking a prison in the town of Champlain, outside of the village of Champlain. What we did at that time, I appointed Gerald Lane, who acted as a committee of one, and he went around after a publicity on it, went around seeking different areas that would probably serve as a site for a prison. And to that extent, that's the extent that we went to. As you know, we had 13 areas that people wanted to offer to the State Department of Correctional Services for a potential facility. Now, they came up, they did not tell us anything at all. All they did is simply review the sites, and then they said they would inform us as to what was to be. Then, what happened, Kevin Travis's office indicated that there was a potential site in the town of Champlain, which you know is the Boyer Farm. After that, we started informing people what was happening. We're looking for support, and also we wanted to listen to those who were opposed to it. And this is where we are now. We're at this point now where we're asking the people of the town of Champlain and surrounding communities, do you want an institution in our area? There's no way that we could have made any type of survey before we know whether or not that we did have a potential area, and that's all that we have. We do not have a positive area. We have a potential area. There's much work to be done. As I indicated in the beginning, Kevin Travis said that they would have to go to the legislature and ask for at least $60,000 for soil tests, so on and so forth. And this could well end up that we couldn't use the area that they figured would be a potential site. Other than that, we're at this public meeting, and this is where we're at.
And comments. Number one, it's already been mentioned that one of the controversies or one of the objections that Malone ran into was out of sight, out of mind. And they certainly have a facility, I've driven by it several times, that's unseen from the highway. At least I didn't, maybe I was going too fast. You can't see it. Now, the site that you've chosen, or tentatively have chosen, is certainly not going to be out of sight. Now, maybe that's not a detriment. Let me go on further with my comment. And that, first of all, I appreciate Dick Emery, and I appreciate all people that have worked as correction officers. They have a hard job. I don't know of any job that's any more emotionally difficult than being a prison officer. So I'm not against the prison system by any means. Some of my patients are correction officers. But I want some more answers. I want, like Bob Ben said, now you have two relatively new facilities that have been represented tonight. I'd like to see more. I'd like to see some facilities that have been in existence for some time, and doing a study before and after. Some of the comments have already been made, before and after. Real estate, merchants, crime, whatever. What these things, new industries moving into the areas. Now we live in Champlain, the second largest inland northern port between Canada and the United States, and it seems to me that industry shouldn't be a difficult thing to attract. Well, it has been. But it seems to me that Ross's Point has attracted a fair amount of new business already.
They paid $3.50 an hour. Can you live on $3?
All right. All right. The other comment I have is a very emotional one, and it has to do with something that's on the air and every day, and it has to do with AIDS. AIDS, as we all know, is a highly volatile subject. It's present throughout the country, but it's most prevalent in the prison system. We have 40 known cases in Dannemora, 10 in Altona. My point is this: it's very likely that if we have a facility in Champlain, that disease will be closer to home. That doesn't mean it eventually won't come, because it probably will. And if we have inmates that are here, their friends may visit. Inmates primarily transmit AIDS by drug. And if their friends come by, that may be also a problem. Now, I realize this is emotional, and I make it only as a comment of information. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sala. Anyone else wish to address the podium at this time?
I'd just like to make one, I asked an earlier question about the drug problem in the inmate population.
that Harris building is going to be in sight and is going to be in everybody's mind, and there's not going to be anybody there. And I've got to look at that building every day. I own a small business across from that place, and if things don't change around this town, that business is not going to be there. And I see other businessmen that are here have the same feelings that I do.
Anyone else? Any comment?
Leo, what are the time parameters that we're working within of when we have to make a presentation to the correction department?
Well, basically, our information will be tonight, and I would hope that perhaps within a week or 2 weeks, we would get some type of feedback in writing or phone calls or something, pro and con, to let this board make up their mind exactly how they're going to pursue this. Do we look for an institution or don't we? Now, I don't know offhand. I would say that probably there's 50 correction officers from the town of Champlain scattered all over the state of New York who would like to get back home. Just like it was mentioned that they came back home in Malone. It's a transfer process and so forth. But the guy who's in the facility from New York City certainly doesn't want to work up here any longer than he has to. This is one thing that we bear in mind, that we do want to get our own people back into our community. They will be either living in the homes they left or be building new homes. Hopefully, this is true. You've heard the people speaking tonight as to how much employment is secured from the local community, and this is important. We talk 46, 48%. I worked at Dannemora for a couple of weeks, and I saw a lot of non-competitive jobs that paid well. These people were hired basically off the street. I think that the salary range is good. There's no reason why a lot of people at this time cannot take the next correction officer's exam. And we have a lot of people from Harris right now who left Harris perhaps before they could get their severance pay because they were called to correction. And I think that there is that potential for a lot of Harris employees. Well, there's no more age limit, so that was an age limit when I went. I just got it because of my military service. That's how I got in the correction department, because I was somewhat older than the rest of the people in there. But we have support from our county legislator, Larry Paquette. Certainly the LDC, Mark Berry, is in support of this institution. What's that?
Up until half an hour ago, Mark wasn't committed one way or the other.
Well, he did say anything he could do to help us, he would do. Okay? That's all I can tell you. I don't know, as I said, I don't know how you people feel here. I don't know if we should get a raise of hands of what. Yes, you want an institution. No, you don't. What we want is some type of feedback to give us direction. I agree wholeheartedly with Dr. Southwick. There's no reason why we can't contact various chambers of commerce where they have prisons that have been there 10, 15, 20, 50 years, and see exactly what that impact of that prison had on that particular community. Were there more bars? Were there more this? Was it a detriment or not? Did the community go downhill? And we will seek this information. I'm sure we can through our local Chamber of Commerce. We will contact these various areas that do have prisons, that's had them for a while, and we'll make this information available to you. As far as the Department of Correctional Services, we have to tell them, yes, we are interested. They will come up, and as I said, first of all, they have to get the money from the legislature to do the testing, and then they go from there. Is it feasible or not feasible? Then they will have to deal with the village of Champlain regarding the sewer system and the water system. And during construction, during testing and everything else, someone is going to be employed locally. I don't know what else I can tell you. Mr. Kowski has I think we can respond.
I wanted to answer. You said what was negative. Well, in my mountain there was a number of people that were negative as far as the prison going into Lime Mountain. All right, so as you know, it's built right there, right on the main street, right across from the street. We've got our old houses. Same way in Dannemora. That's been there for years, the same way. Dannemora, there's been no complaints, and nobody seems to mind that whatsoever. All right, so what happened in Lime Mountain? Those that complained, after they found out that the corrections department went along with whatever they wished to have done, and the corrections department did do what they wanted, 4 or 5, I don't know for sure, those same people that were negative joined the community advisory board. So you can see, the thing is, in a whole nutshell, if the corrections department goes along and does whatever the people want, and if they can do it, then the people will be satisfied and there's no problem whatsoever. Like the doctor mentioned, he said, we can see that, we'll be able to see that difference in the fact that you people have picked. So you can see it at a distance. So what difference does that make? That doesn't make any difference. If you live, I live in Dannemora. My goodness, there's nobody in there seems to make any big issue at all because it's a prison right there, the wall's right there. I live just a short way from the wall. I can hear the PA system and everything else inside of it. Don't bother me. You get used to all these things. It's just like anything else. So the negative part was actually taken care of by the corrections department. And that would possibly be happening anywhere else you go.
Okay, one of the positive parts is supposed to be the economic part of it. Can you tell me how yours and Ellen's taxes have been changed since the prison was there?
The taxes? And which one?
School and land.
All right, the land tax hasn't changed that much. School taxes, I would say that Lime Mountain and Altona, I think they will go along with me, their school taxes have went up. You know, I mean, they were told, well, this is a thing that you go ahead and they want to take and centralize the school. They say, oh, your taxes are going to go down. They show you good taxes for a little while, and all of a sudden, wow, up they go. This happens all over. This the thing down in Moore is fighting the same thing right now with the annexation of San Act. So this is something that more or less you have to accept. Taxes aren't going to make any difference if the prison's there or not. Business in Lime Mountain, economically, there's nothing there. There's nothing for Lime Mountain to gain from it. Although, like I did mention earlier, people have come back to Lime Mountain that weren't there. Houses that were vacant became filled up, and there is a few extra dollars there. So a place like here, Champlain, where you got a few businesses, is going to help. There's no ifs and ands about it. It will help. And like Tony said, Malone, see how it helped there. If you got the places to put the money into, it's going to go there. Okay?
Has anybody done a study on the value of homes before and after prison?
To my knowledge, the value of homes has not changed whatsoever. Not in Lime Mountain. They will possibly if any business things brighten up a little bit. I think in Malone, what little bit I've read about it, I think Malone, the property has gone up a little bit. This is a normal thing. As people come in, they're looking for places, looking for purchasing of homes and business and so forth, naturally it's going to go up to a certain extent. Anything else?
I'd like to add just a little bit to that. I think the next time you see Kevin Travis, if you mention that to him, he can give you some hard numbers on that. We did, a couple of years ago, we did a survey on real estate in the communities where we had built correctional facilities. And in every case, real estate values went up.
There was a hand way up there.
Yes? Mr. Letourneau, I understand what you're saying about the economics. But I think Dr. Southwick, who has treated a lot of people in the community for a long period of time, raises a very valid point about AIDS. I went to Representative Worklaw's hearing in Plattsburgh, and there for several hours on end, the corrections officers, their union, presented their concerns about the AIDS situation in the prison and the very real danger they felt it presented to them and to their families. And I think that while you've addressed the economic issues, I don't think you should brush Dr. Southwick's concern about the impact on health care in Champlain and the area off very likely.
I'll let Pete Lacy respond to your father.
There's no doubt whatsoever that the whole AIDS situation is scary. It's very scary, mostly because we don't know a lot about it. The only thing we know for sure is that it's there. As far as the Department of Corrections is concerned, I've been in it going on 33 years. It's a risk business. We take a risk by working in prison. Unfortunately, at this point in time, AIDS is one of those risks, and it's a big risk. There's no question about it. But at least we know what we're dealing with. We know that there's a risk there, and we can take certain precautions to deal with that risk. I would guess that based on the percentages of inmates in the prison system who have AIDS, there's probably close to an equal percentage in some communities on the street. And the difference being is we don't know what we're dealing with on the street. We do know what we're dealing with in the prison system. So it minimizes the risk. And I'm not attempting to minimize that risk at all. But at least we know it's there and we can take the necessary precautions.
Any other comment? Yes, Doctor.
You got to correct a little bit about knowing about the incidence of AIDS in the prison system. You know those people that have already been tested, but you don't know those that have not been tested. And there's no question, statistically, that there's a much higher incidence of known AIDS in the prison system than there is in communities. Now, you can say, again, communities haven't been tested, but prisoners have as much right as citizens to be tested.
I didn't mean to imply, Doctor, that we knew who all the inmates had AIDS, because we don't. But we do know that it's a high-risk group. We know inmates are a high-risk group as far as AIDS is concerned, so that is the known factor that we're dealing with. We know that risk is there, so we take the precautions. Sometimes I think people on the street in every other, everyday walk of life probably don't realize that there is also a risk there.
Any other comments? Well, at this time, I certainly want to thank the people from the Corrections Department and certainly from Altona and Malone who volunteered their time to come down here for this informational meeting. And I certainly want to thank the mayor of the village of Champlain, Mr. Glenn, and also you people who came tonight. We do appreciate your coming. You did listen. Some of you made comments. Hopefully, we'll hear from you within the next week or two as to